We apologize for the unstable signal there coming from the Bank of Ghana. Let's take it now to Parliament, because today departments and agencies under the Power Ministry will be answering questions at the Public Accounts Committee sitting of Parliament. The GNPC, Gridco, VRA, PORC and a host of others will respond to issues raised in the Auditor General's 2015 report. Beatrice Edu is there and joins us live with that report from there. Beatrice, what is happening now? Well, okay, so we'll go straight into those sittings now, because we understand the officials from the former Power Ministry are there. Let's just take you there now.
We do not make profits in the true sense of a P&L statement where you have your trading account, you have your expenses, you make net profits, and then you pay your dividend. What happens is that at the beginning of every year, GNPC is expected to submit its programs to Parliament, and every single dollar we receive is targeted at specific projects. So when you see any net figure, it's more of unutilized funds that we have, but not profits per se.
Mr. Chair,
so, okay.
Can I have your permission? Yeah, the point that my Chief Finance Officer said is a reality of the situation. I do believe that we ought to have a critical look at the way our financial statements are prepared. And that is something that we are taking up. Naturally, the way it's done now is more or less an allocation of funds to us to meet targeted needs. Once we don't use the funds, technically it reverts to government. That is the understanding of it. If we really want to go to the market as a company, a commercial company, then we have to take a second look at the way these accounts are structured. Technically, it will be seen as something like a receipts and payments, and that is not good for a commercial enterprise. So the current structure that we declare profit satisfies the needs of the markets, but in reality, it doesn't reflect the way the transactions are. And that is something that I'll be looking at critically with my team to see whether we'll have another way of rendering the accounts to give effect to some of these issues.
Okay, well, I'll come back to that. I'll open the floor now to take questions from the honorable members. You have raised a very important issue, and we will interrogate it further. I'll come back to that. Honorable PAC.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I want to make reference to page 67, paragraph 242. And I believe the heading of that page is Management Issues. Mr. Chairman, it is indicated here by the auditors that contrary to Regulation 2881 of FAR 2004, the auditors noted that an advance totaling $42,300 and 35,415 Ghana cedis were granted to officials to undertake various activities for the corporation had not been accounted for as of 31st December 2014. I would want to know what action has been taken with regards to the recommendation made by the auditors, and what steps are being taken to ensure that Imprest is accounted for. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, we have provided written responses to some of these things to the committee. And just to recap, the first point is that the amounts have been fully retired now. It's natural in the business arrangements that people travel, come back. It takes a while for them to retire expenses, Imprest taken. What we have done is now we reviewed our policy, and within 10 days of your return, the Imprest must be retired. And in fact, somebody like me does it a day after I've returned, so that I don't carry anything beyond. Secondly, to retire this, we took a position that if you do not retire, that's the board's decision, then we recover these sums from your salary. And that put pressure on people to retire. And that is through that mechanism that we got the whole amounts retired. Then also we have introduced something like credit cards, electronic cards. You are traveling, the company loads the thing, your Imprest on it, and therefore as you spend, we get the statements, then we know where you spend the money. So it facilitates the process. And I think that the structure we put in place is quite effective, and we are not likely to see the recurrence of such situations in the future.
Mr. Chairman, I think that it is heartwarming to hear that steps are being taken, but I would want to know when these processes were put in place, given that we are talking about 31st December 2014, at which point the auditors had made this observation.
Mr. Chairman, in 2015, we had all but one retired. Then in 2016, the final one retired. The electronic system was put in place last year, 2016, to address the issues.
Mr. Chairman, so is it the case that these actions were taken in response to the recommendations of the Auditor General's report and for fear of appearing before this committee?
Well, I can confirm that yes, the reports triggered, and we did take the actions, which is quite shows the usefulness of the audit.
I think that's all. Auditor General, Honorable member want to know if you are satisfied with the retirement that they are talking about.
Yes, we are satisfied, but we are here to verify the last.
Okay, so you do that verification.
Thank you.
Honorable Tinyasi.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm getting over to the assets acquisition and documentation. So let's get back to page 68, para 53. Page 68, para 253, running down to 260. And firstly, want an update on the findings of the auditor as per the report we have, which covers the period I'm talking about. What is the update? Because we are acquiring assets, and in this era of serious litigations, if we don't have proper documentation, then we have paid money for no value, but we have to pay money for value. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I think we've given indications of the actions taken so far. We do our bit, but you know many of these, some of the difficulties in getting over hurdles at the Lands Commission in getting some of these things registered, as well as even Tema Development Corporation. We have provided indications of the efforts we have made in terms of processing and stamping the documents. The first one is the 2 bungalows you talk about. We're still working with the relevant parties, and we do believe that we can bring closure to that. Regarding our head office building, still the same process with TDC, but I think we wanted to acquire the adjoining land as part of this, and that caused a bit of delay. But for verification purpose, Evidence of ownership is established in other ways, through ground rents, management fee, and the fact that we've done the lease preparation and paid the fees. The cadastral plan has been done and indicated all these payments. We will still continue and push hard to the final conclusion so that we can get hold of these documents in our custody.
Okay, thank you. I'm okay with that.
I want to find out, CEO, if you have not concluded the process of acquiring the property, do you capture them as assets of the corporation?
Yes, we'll cover them as capture them as assets on the balance sheet, and my colleagues on the other side as accountants know that the worst that happens is that you qualify the accounts in terms of not having verified the existence, ownership, and valuation of the asset. There are three principles involved there. So the mere fact that we haven't closed the registration or we haven't completed does not mean that we cannot capture the asset. We can capture, but they raise a query or qualification on the accounts. It's a housekeeping issue, and it's something that you see many accounts being qualified on the basis that we did not cite, say, the title, documents. It doesn't mean that we don't have the asset. The true verification will involve the three steps: ownership, and existence, and valuation. So it's up to them to make a judgment. And if they do qualify the accounts, yes, we know the implications of that. But like I said, it becomes a housekeeping issue, and we'll push and make sure that we bring finality to it. But it must come onto the balance sheet.
Well, I asked you this question, and this is the answer I'm expecting. But in your earlier answer, you did mention about the process of not completing the lease agreement. If you are leasing a property, will you capture the lease property as part of your assets?
Maybe, I don't know. Maybe I haven't understood your question. But so far as asset values or asset recognition on the balance sheet is concerned, whether lease, freehold, or leasehold can come onto the balance sheet. The only thing that the auditors will do, if they don't have the requisite documentation, is to raise the qualification of the accounts.
No follow-up. Substantive question. Honorable.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, still on the assets, the table that's been put on page 69, if you come from the top, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, down, if you come down, 4-bedroom house number H stroke number EX8, committee 3. Title deed not cited, unoccupied and deteriorating. The emphasis is on the unoccupied and deteriorating. Then EMPRO, my pronunciation is correct, EMPRO building. Title deed number this has been provided. Then the remarks: cracks, breakages, and deteriorating. Mr. Chairman, these are assets that the entity has used public funds to put up. And one is unoccupied, deteriorating. The other one, too, cracks, breakage. What has the organization done after the audit? Because, Mr. Chairman, I believe this document was not produced in a day. The auditors went there, had meetings, did their job.
Honorable member,
there was an
can
exit.
you just ask your question straightforward?
So
ask your question.
I'm asking, what is the current status of these assets that are in very bad conditions?
I can confirm that we've taken steps to restore the assets. It's in process. We haven't finished yet, but they are working. The contractors are working on it. You know, the process of going through PPA, Public Procurement Agency, and things like that tend to cause a bit of delays. And then also, you know, when you are doing maintenance and you go into it, you mention cracks, you then will encounter other difficulties which come as variation, not fluctuation, variation to the original contract. So once you encounter that, then the process slows down. But we appreciate the value of the asset to us, and we are making sure that we restore it.
Mr. Chairman, I think my last question.
You are entitled to one question. Honorable Koshigan.
Thank you, Chairman. I would want to take us to page 13, paragraph 31. The auditors had complained about your previous inability to audit your partners, petroleum partners. Want to find out if that recommendation has been adhered to as at now.
Mr. Chairman, per the written responses, we have indicated that an audit was carried out by Pricewaterhouse and a group of experts on the Jubilee asset, which we have the report in our custody, and making sure that all the technical issues raised, problems raised, are being addressed. As a further step, we have indicated to the partners that the operator is Tullow. That is the operator. We have 5 partners on the field. Tullow is the operator, the technical operator, and the others we are not. So we are joining hands to do a joint audit. You see, sometimes we tend to say the partners, but the real operator is Tullow. The others don't have day-to-day management of the field. So together with Cosmos and Adako, Petro SA, we are undertaking a joint audit. We propose that we do a joint audit. And in fact, why we have taken that step is to reduce the cost of the audit. You notice that it costs us here a walloping $4.8 million, almost $4.9 million to undertake the audit carried by Pricewaterhouse and others on our behalf. If we do it together, then we'll share this cost in proportion to our relative shares. So that is how a relative interest in the field. That is how we are approaching it. In fact, we've taken another step to have an audit committee of the joint management committee of the assets, so that on our own we'll make sure that we put Tullow on his toes.
Well, Chairman, thank you, sir, for the detailed explanation. But in effect, have you or have you not carried out the audit, or you are still in the process?
Chairman, I think I did mention that an audit was undertaken. So we have done the audit. That was done by Pricewaterhouse and a group of experts, technical experts. The report is in draft stage, and I've withheld the last final payment pending the submission of the final report. So that will be done. I must add, this audit was commissioned at the instance of the Ministers of Energy and Finance. And technically, those who commissioned the audit must offer their comments before the report can be finalized. As GNPC, we have looked at the report, we've offered comments, and I expect that Pricewaterhouse will go to the appointing authorities and get the report finalized. Thank you.
How soon do you think that the report of the audit by PwC will come out?
I would say very soon, because they are interested in getting their last payment. And so far as they're interested in their last payment, they'll make sure that it's finalized, and so that they can be paid. But it doesn't mean that we are not implementing the recommendations in the report. We are actually working on the recommendations on a continuous basis.
Which recommendations?
Chairman, just like the Auditor General did, any of these audits.
Are you talking about the recommendations of the
PwC
report?
Yeah.
But the report has not been issued yet.
No, but I don't need, in management sense, I don't need to wait for the report to sign off before I implement the recommendations. As there are pressing issues, you deal with them before even the report is finalized. And normally the auditor will say that, oh, at the time of finalizing this report, even these matters have been addressed.
Honorable Deputy Minister for Northern Region, Honorable Boa.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Mr. Chairman, let me take the committee to page 66, paragraph, table 2, consolidated statement of financial position as at 31st December 2014. There's one item I'm interested in, current liabilities. When you look at the table, you realize that in 2013, your current liability position was, the total was 33.5 million, yes, thereabout. But in 2014, it ballooned to 324,754,620. Just wondering what would have accounted for that, because there was a percentage jump of 868.9.
From here.
Okay. This.
Yeah, and then this.
It's not this one. This one. The difference is due to cost.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. We've just looked at the figures. When a current assets balloon, all that it means that some debts haven't been paid, current liabilities. It means some payments have to be, is it current liabilities? Yeah, I think it's a trading relationship between us.
CEO, you can let your competent financial director do that. Don't mind.
I beg your pardon.
You have the option to let your financial director do that for you.
Chairman, first of all, I would like to say that it's the 319 is the group. So the GNPC one is from 14 to 290 on the page. If there are two categories, so just for that. And the difference is just the bust transactions. We had started the bust transactions, and these were current items, end of year. They happened around the end of year.
We're not clear about the answer. Saying that your current liability jumped from 33.5 million Ghana cedis to 324 million. There must be something that accounted for that jump in your current liability from 33 million to over 300 million. What accounted for that? That is what the member is asking.
Chairman, it's to do with the bust transaction. We traded in total about $187 million in total. So this is in CD, and at the time, that was the indebtedness. At the end of the reporting period, that was the indebtedness.
Indebtedness of GNPC to bust?
Yes.
Are you sure?
It was to do with the
because these are liability. You are talking about indebtedness. So I want to be clear. If it is GNPC that owes bust,
it was you would say yes, but it's to do with the bust transactions because we were trading. They had, per the arrangements, we had.
Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, you need to come very clear. I really don't get you very well. Help me to understand you better. What your explanation? If you go to paragraph 240. Financial Director, are you with me?
Yes.
If you go to paragraph 240, where we say we have, Chairman, permit me to read this. The current liabilities also increased by 898.9% from 33.5 in 2013 to 324.7 million in 2014. This was due to 1,082.7% increase in trade and other payables over the previous year. Will you be in a position to be able to let us understand what you mean by other payables?
Products were being imported for sale. So when the products come in, we owe the traders. So until you sell and repay, it's a liability owed to the traders. And at that point, at the reporting point, this was the amount of products that had been delivered to us.
So is it the same as the bust explanation you were giving?
Yes, please. It's related to that bust transaction.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Madam, I think our problem is the increase, because maybe these trade transactions have been going on for years, but this over 1,000% increase is where we want to understand why the phenomenal increase. Unless you are saying it was only in 2014 that you started this, then people will appreciate it.
I mean, that was precisely the situation. I mean, GNPC on its own does not trade. We don't buy and sell products. But intervals, government leverage on our balance sheet. Government leverages on our balance sheet too, for certain transactions to be done. And this was one of the transactions. So products are coming in on behalf of BOST. But BOST is not a counterparty. And therefore, we had to pay the traders. So at that point in time, the end of the year, which is very normal, for us to import more products, getting to Christmas time, then the settlement wouldn't have been done. That is why the payable is, I'm sure if you move into January, February, you notice that it will reduce significantly. But to the third parties, the traders, they held us responsible. That is why on our balance sheet, it will appear as a liability.
Well, Auditor General, can you take a look at the figures? Table 2, you are saying that the percentage change is 868. So I want you to confirm the right figure for me. And then in the write-up in paragraph 240, the figure is 898. Which one is the correct one?
Mr. Chairman, can I help a bit? If we are looking at one side of the balance sheet, which is the liabilities, this is intercompany transactions, related party transactions. So you go to the liabilities, you see that the thing ballooned. Go to the trade debtors, because we also be holding bonds in our books as a debtor. So if you net off, the amount really becomes small.
We'll go to the asset side too.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, that when you read it together, the other question will be, why is it that trade debtors have also gone up considerably? Then we say that boss will be owing us. So then you net off and the effect will be about the same.
I agree with you. Brass Mubarak.
I'm grateful, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, shall we refer to paragraph number 247? And I'm taking off from where the Honorable Richard Kwashiga left off. Now, when was the audit commissioned? And what are the timelines you have given for the conclusion of the audit? Timeline, sir.
Honorable Mr. Chair, like I mentioned earlier, GNPC did not commission the audit on its own.
Very good. And if I may, if you are required by the agreement in section 18.6 to conduct an audit, and then you collaborate with the partners, in this case, as you explained, the partners are paying for a part of the audit. Would you agree that by paying for a portion of the audit, there may be a compromise of the process?
Mr. Chairman, I think maybe Honorable Member has understood the structure of the partnership. Within the partnership, there is a technical operator. Everybody mentions Talo always, but there are other partners. Because Talo is the leader of the PAC, they are the technical operators. GNPC, Anadarko, Cosmos, and Petroleum SA are equally interested in making sure that Talo performs. Because if Talo doesn't perform, we all lose the money. So collaborating with them will not undermine.
If Talo is paying for a part of the audit.
Talo is not.
Okay.
I'm saying that the other partners apart from Talo are collaborating to make sure that Talo performs. And I think it's a more effective way of doing it, getting everybody on board, and also sharing the cost.
And it's cost us over $4 million.
The one that was done, I'm not too sure that the one that the partners will do together might cost that much.
And you don't have timelines as to when it will be concluded?
This particular one has been the one which was done under the direction of the Energy and Finance Ministers, is near conclusion.
When would it be concluded?
Pardon?
When would it be concluded?
I did
if you've commissioned an audit, you would expect that there should be some timelines.
will be pushing and facilitating so that PwC issues the report. Because the actual report, the draft is there. We as GNPC, we have looked at it. If the two ministries or the two ministers will give their comments, then it will be signed off.
My final one, Mr. Chairman. Minister, you mentioned in your opening.
You have taken more than one question.
If I may, please.
Please, no, I will not allow you. Honorable Kingsley.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I will refer the committee to page 66 on the same table 2. And I realize that at the very last row, current ratio, we have, I noticed that your current ratio reduced drastically between 2013 and 2014. That's from 10.6 to 1 to 3.5 to 1. But I still realize that it's on the higher side. Theoretically, we expect it to be between 1.5 to 1.5 to 2 is to 1. The impression it gives is that you are overtrading. What can you say to that?
Mr. Chairman, well, the honourable member set his own standard as to what the ratio should be. I must say that ratios will vary from industry to industry, and also in respect of various circumstances. Our ratio is high or deteriorate high, maybe more than normal, because we are being asked to do things that we ought not to be doing. We don't have to trade. We don't have to trade. But the government requested that something must be done, and it was done. So you see it as a temporary. Maybe if you look at accounts over 10 years, you may have 1 or 2 years which will display that kind of characteristic or that kind of situation. So it's not really something that should be worrying, because once that phase is passed, we are not going to have that kind of ratio emerging again.
Which means that in the next few months or years, you expect that this governmental influence on you will reduce drastically, so that the agencies that are being asked to trade on their behalf will be resourced to be on their own and do their own trading. Is that not it?
I think that one I will leave to policymakers. It's not my decision.
Let me do a follow-up. The CEO, the same account that you did not agree to the format because of the profit that was churned out of 590 million Ghana cedis. You had problem with the format of the account, but the same account that the financial position, you are defending it, agreeing with the current ratio position. Are you not taking double positions now?
Mr. That is what you see there. And I have said that I do have my own reservations as a professional accountant as to how this ought to be done. But I haven't come to any definitive conclusions. Mind you, I've been in the job for just about 6 months. I'm working with the people who are there. They need to advise. They need to let me understand why that is the way we are doing it. And all these auditors, the big 4 firms, Deloitte, Pricewaterhouse, whatever, they've been certifying the accounts just like that. What I may, if I understand things properly, what I may do will be to engage them and say, colleagues, can we have a second look at this? Can we present it in another way? Even if we may go on this route for disclosure reasons, I may suggest that we do some other presentations so that we give another picture to somebody else who will be looking at these accounts. You know, we are caged into the traditional mode of reporting. the conventional mode of reporting. And that is why sometimes you see these things going. If you get somebody who is quite proactive, who is quite courageous, he may want to have a second look at the way the presentation is done. And that may be acceptable. Of course, the auditors may come, and if these the principles are in line with the international standards, I don't think it will matter much. But whether I do receipts and payments, or I do income and expenditure, or I do the conventional P&L, so far as I produce a balance sheet, I can do these ratios.
Well, it's an issue as a professional accountant, and as a professional accountant, we can debate it further. Because if you don't want to accept the position of you unutilized fund, and that which has been part of your financial position, meanwhile, in the profit statement, you are not agreeing because there's a portion that has been allotted for you for a specific project for a year, you have not utilized it, and that is turning out a bigger profit. And that, because you have not used that fund, it forms part of your current assets. And that turns out the current ratio. Then we'll continue to debate the position as you are putting it. We'll debate it and debate it.
Maybe this is not, like you said, maybe we find time and talk. But let me add that we may have a structure whereby the funds which are not utilized can be classified as committed funds, and that will reduce considerably the profit figure. So some of these are the kind of modifications I may suggest to the way the accounts are presented. But of course, I'm going to work with my team. I have about 14 accountants in there, so we'll subject this to debate, and then we see how we can, what conclusions we can draw.
I don't want to. The Chief Director. Sorry. From where you are coming from, clearly, it means that the net profit position we are seeing here is not the true reflection of the company position. Is that not the case?
You say Chief Director or myself?
Sorry, yourself.
Okay, thank you. I think we are raising very conceptual issues. Very, very conceptual issues. On one breath, I would say this is a surplus of funds which have not been disbursed. But there are commitments to these funds, because they might have been released for projects which are in the pipeline. So, as a surplus of funds, there's some validity there, in the sense that they gave me so much, I utilized that, so unspent or surplus is so much. Then you come to another side, whether you want to describe it as profit is another issue. If I'm not trading, how do I declare profit? It's a question that will underline the kind of arguments that are advanced.
Well, that is the more reason I begin the question by saying, are you a commercial entity? And you say yes. As a commercial entity, you need to prepare profit and loss statement. Not
we are expected to operate,
income and expenditure account.
No, we are expected to operate on sound commercial lines.
So you want to call it income and expenditure statement?
I haven't said so. I said that the current
It's a question I'm posing to you. I'm not saying that's what you said. I'm asking you a question.
Let me take
based on that, do you want your account to be classified as income and expenditure statement instead of profit and loss account?
Let me take time to reflect. I think I've made a point that we'll be debating internally and see what kind of structure we want. Okay. Maybe we may need...
That's okay. Honorable Mavis.
Thank you, Chairman. Can we go back to page 13, paragraph 32? Okay, so in the report, it is captured that the corporation's vehicles have not been re-registered. I want to find out if they have now and who's in charge of ensuring that they are re-registered as government vehicles. Yeah,
you see, there's a difficulty here. And I think the use of GV and whatever is, whether we register as a GV registration or the normal registration. And I think we sought dispensation from our ministry to see what can be done because of the nature of the entity, which we're still debating whether it's commercial, whether it is non-commercial, whether it is statutory, whether it's non-statutory. So these are all issues there. As of now, we have not changed our numbers to GV. We still use the civil numbers. And I would think that that's the way it should be.
Chairman. Mr. CEO, would you agree with me that this exposes the vehicles to theft and abuse? Yes.
I think we addressed the abuse issue here. For example, we've installed tracking systems. We've piloted tracking systems, the use of tracking system to be able to know where our vehicles are. That's an effective way of making sure that the vehicles are not abused. As for theft, at least if I understand my commercial law very well, sales of goods, the only thing in this country that you sell, vehicles, that you must know that it is registered properly. That is really something, I don't know, maybe some 30 years ago when I did commercial law, maybe the law has changed. But our vehicles are registered in GNPC's name, not in an individual's name. And then we have the tracking system. We have a system of monitoring vehicles in the pool. And I think that that is good enough to ensure effective utilization of the vehicles and prevent any thefts or abuses.
Honorable members, we will not take any question from the membership again. I'll come to leadership. No, we haven't spoken. So, Dr. Rankin.
Thank you, Chairman, for the opportunity. Honorable Minister, or you, the chief, CEO, I want us to look at the issue of electronic cards that you have now used. Electronic cards, yes. After the audit, there was a case of Imprest not being accounted for. And you responded that this time around, in order to get officers who have been advanced money to do various activities, account for Imprest, you have introduced electronic cards. So how does it stop, or how does this get officers who have been advanced money to undertake various activities, account for money?
Mr. Chairman, I believe honorable member uses a credit card. So your credit card company will send you a statement of account for each card. So you get on it, one way of tracking expenditure, you see hotel, this, vehicle, transport, taxes. So you get all that on the statement. Because we haven't given the money to the person in his hands, it means he did not carry any cash for him to come and do any accounting. The statement comes, and then we will see whether we'll see the validity of the transactions on the statement. The difference here is that with the Imprest system, you carry cash. So when you come back, you must give us receipts and the statement of account to retire the interest. This one, you don't carry cash.
The question really is, so having deployed the electronic account system, has it helped you now get things work well as far as account for interest is concerned?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. So will you recommend it to other ministries if those who are not yet, is another institution?
In the electronic age, that is the way to go.
Okay. And then the last one on the current assets. Yes, as my colleague was talking about the current assets, I can see that you have increased significant assets as far as the current assets you are concerned. And if you do not put system in place in terms of how you manage it against your liabilities that you alluded to earlier on, things can actually go the way it should. So as far as current asset management is concerned, you must get your competent team, like you say, you have them up to 14 to really keep their eyes on it. This one is just an opinion of that. Thank you.
Thank you. Acting CEO, on paragraph 264. Coming to the bottom, Ghana Heritage Fund went up by 284%. Can you explain to us what it means?
Mr. Chairman, I think maybe this question will be properly directed to the Minister of Finance, because they are in charge of the Heritage Fund.
Very well, very well. Yes, the final account. Can you provide us with your final signed financial statement? Yeah, the year in question, 2014 and about 2014, 2015.
We can do
so that when you come next time, most of these disputed issues of the net profit and other, we would have looked at it ahead of time before you come. Before you come and then initiate your debate as to whether you accept the financial position or not. So I will request that you submit to the committee your final signed account financial statement for 2014-2015. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, we can even be generous. We can give you 2015 in addition. So both 2014 and 2015.
That is exactly what I asked for. I said 2014, 2015. We are dealing with 2014 now. So precisely, I will be interested in the 2015.
You have them.
And the generosity you are talking about is your duty. And you need to submit that report to the committee. Any other person, it's just that probably we don't sometimes ask for.
No, we are not saying that we are being generous to you. But you asked for 14, and I say I can afford to give you 15.
Against you, I asked precisely for 2014 and 2015. So if you want to be over generous, then ask them this is big.
We'll do our best.
Thank you, Chairman. My question is to the Minister. Minister, Recently, in Parliament, the issue about GNPC acting like a banker to other organizations was raised. And in fact, there was a recommendation that you cease from being a banker to other institutions. I know this didn't probably happen some years back, but I want to understand what is the current position. I want to understand whether I want to understand the current position of, for instance, financing the Black Stars, giving loans to. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As the honourable member clearly indicated, time was when GNPC was used as a cash cow to do other things. It had a solid balance sheet, and therefore that balance sheet was leveraged to support other government entities in providing either guarantees or limited liquidity for specific purposes. So in the past you had a situation where ECG, for example, couldn't raise guarantees A and B on some of the emergency power plants, and therefore the result was to GNPC's balance sheet as a government entity. From my own perspective, I think it's not a healthy practice, simply because the commingling of assets from different entities raises certain contingent liability issues that may not be easily addressed legally. I would always advocate that since these balance sheets are autonomous in their entities, we stick to cross leverage. We stay away from cross leverage. It may arise that government may need funding. If that be the case, then we have to look at how the transaction is properly structured as a financial transaction rather than instruction to leverage. By this I mean, if there was a need for the energy sector to have some collateralization or leveraging done, then there ought to be proper security and liquidity documents that specifically set out the objective and the retirement period. Instead of a minister or some authority instructing GNPC to go proceed and do something, I think we should stay away from that. My final point is that we should encourage, or rather develop a situation where each entity stands on its own and finances its activities so that we can determine the viability of each entity without cross-subsidization and cross-leveraging.
Thank you. My second question, or my second point is
please, honorable members, please, let's put our phones on silent.
Recently, it appears that we have some stability on what we used to call Doings Fund. Can you assure Ghanaians that?
Honorable member, I'll disallow that question. This is what GNPC is not on the Ministry of Energy.
This GNPC, this is GNPC, please don't go there. Why? Chairman, I'm asking a public interest question. You ask a public interest question when the Ministry of Energy appears before, but the minister is sitting there. We are not meeting Ministry of Energy, we are meeting GNPC. The Ghanaians want to know. And allow me to ask my public interest question. Please, Chairman, with all due respect.
I declare that question.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let me have my share on the question time. I'm the chair. If you want to disallow me, go ahead. CEO, I want us to look at the financial statement again. My interest is on that area. What constitutes your revenue? And in the profit and loss statement here is described as sales revenue. What constitutes that?
I'll leave it to my Chief Financial Officer to respond.
Chairman, just like we talked about the excess funds, there is a conceptual issue about revenue recognition. Since 2011, when PRMA happened, we've had long debates. We've had to, in fact, it delayed our adoption of IFRS because IFRS has defined the